Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we'll be talking about how to use and test an API using Swagger to documentation. So first of all, what you see here is a Swagger. So it's a Spring Dog Open. We start with Spring Dog Open API. Spring Dog Open API is a library that integrates with the Spring Boot framework to automatically generate an open API documentation for REST APIs. It allows developers to describe their API endpoints and models using annotations and generates an open API specification in either JSON. Before I go to JSON, we go to what we call our Spring Boot Swagger 3. Now we go to a REST API, right? Assume that we have a Spring Boot application that exposes a REST API for a tutorial application, and each of these tutorials have an ID. It has a title, a description, and the public status. As you can see, it has the ID, the internal server, and the title, the description, and the public status. And then we have our Spring Boot Swagger 3 Maven dependency. I'll just go to my Intel.js. As you can see, guys, my main application is running for this tutorial. Let's go to our XML first and explain everything. The main purpose of our POX XML is to import our main third-party packages. What we installed is our Swagger 3 in my Maven project, and I added the Spring Dog Open AI Startup Web MVC. As you can see, this is the dependency that I'm talking about, the Spring Dog, and I also added this dependency for Spring Boot. We also added for the starter test, and we have nothing nothing much in this one. So now I'll just go to my models. Inside this model, I have a tutorial module. I'm importing my IO Swagger with annotations, right? And I have the public class tutorial, and I'm making it in access mode. And we go to a tutorial controller. What is happening in my tutorial controller? I go to my main origin, which is localhost 8080, and I can see my tutorials and my APIs, and I can create a new tutorial, and I can delete and update my tutorial. I can get the tutorial, I can filter it, I can retrieve all tutorials and with the responses and all of those, and I can retrieve a tutorial by ID and get a tutorial by specifying its ID and the response, the tutorial object with the ID and all of that. Now we go to our application properties, which are the main instructions that can actually help us get over this quickly. Before I get into this, I have the Swagger configuration in Spring Boot. What is happening is that we can configure our API documentation by specifying properties in the Spring configuration file. So these properties can be classified into Open API and Swagger UI properties and Open API property, and specify how the project should be scanned to identify API endpoints and create documentation. The Swagger UI properties help us to customize the user interface of our API documentation. And we go to our our Swagger UI path, right? What is happening there? It is for custom path of the Swagger documentation. When I go to my localhost API backend, and I have my Swagger UI operation. I don't know if I have it here. Operation, as you can see, I have it here. That is for the method or the function. Then I go to my Swagger UI filter. Swagger UI filter. As you can see, it is turned to true to disable the filter tagged operation, and we can see the string. So now I'm going to show you, this is the front end of my Swagger. I went to this localhost here, localhost 8080 Swagger UI and index.html, and this are the different tutorials that we get. We get, put, delete, and yeah, then we have update for put and all of those. Now I go to my backend. In my backend, I'm running an API that has all the documentations for my tutorials. So first of all, we're running on OpenAPI version 3.0.1, and our information, we have tutorial management API. So this the main purpose of this was that it exposes an API to that documentation. So this API exposes endpoints to manage tutorials, and we have the terms of services, which is HTTPS www Betzorga. Then we contact Betzorga and all of that. And we have the licenses, the versions, the servers that we're running. First, we have tutorial. Inside tutorial, we can get our tutorial. We use the get method. We retrieve all the tutorials by their ID, and we get a tutorial object by specifying its ID and the what. Let me just do this. Where was I reading now? By specifying its object, and the response is tutorial object with ID, title, description, and publish status, right? Then we go and update a tutorial by our ID. We use the put method. As you can see in the front end, we have the put method here, which updates our tutorial by ID, and we can also request it, right? And we can execute. Now we need to put in our ID. We can say ID 7 or any ID that is required. Then we go to our components. We have our status, okay. And then we go to our other tutorials. We can delete our tutorials, and we can get all tutorials. It is the same process. We just repeating things, and this is the main things that we focus on: getting an API backend which exposes the APIs, how to use Swagger to document and test an API. As you can see, we used Betzorga API docs for our backend, and we have our front end, which is Swagger UI index.html. Remember that we're using Swagger UI for the custom path of the Swagger documentation, and I'm running on this server here, development environment. And inside here you can see I have Betzorga API docs, and this is the front end of the API. That was the backend that I showed you guys, and you can see we have controls, accept, header, everything is running well. We have get, we have all of these, and I have my schemas, which is integer, string, and boolean. And we can create a new API and do whatever we want and post it and work with it. I thank you for viewing my YouTube channel, and I hope you learned something from this vid. Hope you click the subscribe button.